first, don't mess with Trump. That's the focus of tonight's angle. Now, when President Trump took to Truth Social to announce the ceasefire late yesterday, the atmosphere was jubilant, but with an asterisk, if both sides truly lived up to the agreement. But for whatever reason, Israel decided to proceed, a lot of people think, in bad faith and use the intervening hours to drop a hell of a lot of bombs on Iran. And Iran lobbed some too, but nothing compared to what Netanyahu authorized. At 7:15 a.m. this morning, Trump dropped his own bomb on Bibi.
I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Some of us heard the actual F-bomb. Well, marinate on that for a moment, especially considering what liberals have accused him of vis-a-vis Israel. The New Republic called him all-time Bibi lapdog among American presidents. And the regime media and Obama's henchmen, with their limited thinking, thought they had Trump pegged.
He didn't know what Israel was going to do and was ultimately being goaded and dog-walked by the prime minister of Israel into this war.
I think this is Bibi Netanyahu and the Israelis that convinced Trump to disregard the position of the U.S. intelligence community.
And when I think of the word credibility, Brennan comes to mind. Never. Trump wants peace, and he expects and demands that our allies make good on their promises, whether regarding NATO military spending or regarding a ceasefire as important as this is. I'm glad that Trump was angry before most Americans had even opened their eyes. And wouldn't you know, Trump gets results. Israel seems to have gotten the message. Its defense minister told Pete Hegseth that Israel is deeply grateful to President Trump and will respect the ceasefire as long as Iran does too. He also promised to strengthen the national security cooperation between the United States and Israel. Well, that's better. Let's hope it holds. Now, even though the Trump haters refuse to see it, they refuse for one moment to consider the possibility that Donald Trump is the most powerful force for peace that America has seen, certainly since Reagan. But if they could step outside of their own bubble of Trump loathing for a moment, they'd see him as something they could actually work with, not as an ideologue, but above all, as a realist who puts America first.
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people. And they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job.
Now, that's a smart answer. He was never for America forcing regime change. That never works out. But of course, if the regime changed to leadership we could work with, that'd be great. I think that's his point. And politically, it's never, ever good to be on the side that seems to be hoping for the worst, hoping for inflation, hoping that tariffs drive up prices, hoping that the Fed keeps interest rates high, hoping that the ceasefire doesn't last.
This ceasefire may be more in Donald Trump's imagination than in reality. I want to see evidence on the ground in real time that there is a ceasefire. I am deeply concerned that chaos and confusion seem to be the United States brand of foreign policy right now.
Oh, what a sad state of affairs for my home state of Connecticut. Blumenthal's the senator there. Rooting for failure just because it would hurt Trump. All afternoon, CNN was salivating over the prospect that Iran's nuclear capabilities had not been obliterated, as Trump had indicated. Early intel indicating that the strike set back the Iranian nuclear program for months, but perhaps not entirely. The first intel assessment comes from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the Pentagon's intel wing, and this early look was apparently leaked, as its details are top secret. Now, it was reportedly based on the evidence presented by CENTCOM. Again, It is their belief that the Iranian nuclear program was set back significantly, but not destroyed. Secretary of Defense Hegseth responded to this, saying, quote, based on everything we've seen, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. And White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt shot back, calling the assessment, quote, flat out wrong and a clear attempt to demean President Trump. Now, knowing President Trump, I think I know him pretty well, he's going to demand answers here. After all, before he greenlit the bombing, he wanted assurances that the bunker busters could do the trick. So if it turns out that he was given assessments that were too optimistic, then heads should roll. Today, the White House abruptly canceled its intel briefings for Congress on the Iranian strikes, which infuriated some members of the relevant committees.
The administration has a legal obligation to inform Congress precisely about what is happening.
I think the fact that they canceled this briefing today just goes to show how chaotic this administration really is.
Clearly, the chaos and the confusion coming out of the White House made that impossible. It is completely unacceptable that Congress has not been briefed on this in a timely fashion.
Calm down, kids. Speaker Johnson said the briefing will take place on Friday. But this shows you how high the tensions are running. And look, they think they can score politically on this. They're going to do it. That's what the Democrats do. But one thing we know for sure, to all of you Trump foes out there, underestimate him at your own peril. The mullahs didn't read him right. They thought he was going to balk at intervention. Some Republicans didn't read him right. They thought he was an isolationist. And Democrats didn't read him right. They thought he'd go in half-cocked and start World War III. All of them were wrong. So don't mess with Trump. He'll fight as hard for peace as he does for border enforcement, for tax cuts, and for cutting the bureaucracy. And he has common sense. And patriotic Americans are on his side. And that's the angle. So how did this ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel actually get negotiated? We know President Trump was directly involved, talking with Bibi Netanyahu, while Vance, Rubio, and my next guest talked with the Iranians.
Donald Trump said he expected the ceasefire to last forever. Then both sides violated it. Iran broke the truce first, and then Israel hit back. Trump found out about it right before he left for Holland, and he wasn't even this mad after he got shot.
When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
On Air Force One, he dialed Netanyahu and barked at him. Sources say Trump was really angry, told him to knock it off. Unlike Biden, when Trump says don't, people listen. And the ceasefire's held since then. Iran's at its weakest point since the 80s. And Israel just cleaned out their whole neighborhood, and they should probably take the win. The question is, does Israel disobey Trump and assassinate the Ayatollah? Does he get couped? Or does he remain in power?
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos.
Iran's being strangled by sanctions. Their currency's out of control. And they're running out of missiles. Trump says the solution is to stop trading rockets and trade products.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders. And they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
So did they
The
promise?
last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
So far, Operation Midnight Hammer's delivered. No casualties, no escalation, and a ceasefire. But Obama's CIA director, who was knee-deep in the Russia hoax, says Trump blew it.
I think the credibility of this administration really has been shattered. I mean, I don't think it was ever strong, but it has been shattered over the past several weeks. The U.S. intelligence community, by all accounts, still assesses that Iran has not restarted their nuclear weapons program, which they suspended in 2003.
How would he know? He doesn't even have a clearance anymore. If Iran's nuclear program's peaceful, why'd they hide it in a mountain? CNN says the bunker busters we dropped didn't work.
The Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says this CNN story was written by the same reporter who wrote the very first fake news story claiming the Hunter Biden laptop was disinformation. Now, I don't know who Trump's madder at, Iran and Israel or CNN and MSNBC.
That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job, but when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished, and I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people.
The International Atomic Energy Agency is saying CNN doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. They're saying our bunker busters actually caused more damage than was actually first thought. The IAEA chief says the strikes were so accurate, the site's probably contaminated and overflowing with hazardous chemicals.
How far back do you believe Iran's nuclear weapons program has been set by these strikes? Is it months? Is it years?
Well, I think the nuclear program, the Iranian nuclear program, has been set back significantly.
The Pentagon said the sites were obliterated. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff called it extreme destruction and devastation. And Trump's chief negotiator says this.
Well, it goes without saying that leaking that type of information, whatever the information, whatever side it comes out on, is outrageous. It's treasonous. So it ought to be investigated, and whoever did it, whoever's responsible for it, should be held accountable. There's no doubt that it breached the canopy. There's no doubt that it was well within reach of the depth that these bunker buster bombs go to, and there's no doubt that it was obliterated. So the reporting out there that in some ways suggests that we did not achieve the objective is just completely preposterous.
Even Obama's CIA director said the American operation set the Iranian nuclear program back years.
There's no question that there has been very, very significant damage done to all of the known nuclear sites within Iran. And I suspect that this has indeed set the program back much, much more than many months. But the bomb damage assessment process does need to be complete to validate that. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I think, was correct when he said there was severe damage, no question about that.
All right, so you're certain it set the program back several years. It does, to your point.
I'm confident that it did.
So we're dropping 30,000-pound bombs on our enemy, and the only ones saying we didn't make a dent are Iran and CNN. CNN's just parroting enemy propaganda. They're saying the people who chant death to America are mostly peaceful.
I remember, Dan, at one point being in Tehran years ago, and they're chanting death to America all around me, even as I say, oh, I'm an American reporting for CNN, and they were happy to speak to me. So that those two sort of jarring realities of the chant and yet the friendliness have existed together.
So they're telling us Iran was never close to nukes. Then they tell us Trump never hit the target, and now they're saying terrorists are good people. These are the same people that believed everything the Biden White House told them. The president's in great shape, the border's secure, no inflation. They believed it all. But when Trump bombs Iran and everyone says the damage was devastating, CNN says, I'm going to believe the terrorists who chant death to America. The Israelis have been bombing the hell out of Iran for 12 straight days, hitting every target they wanted. nuclear, industrial, oil, command and control. Every top general's dead. Every nuclear scientist is dead. All 3 nuclear sites were hit with tomahawks and bunker busters, and they're sitting in a pile of rubble. The country's broke. The supreme leader is in hiding, hasn't been heard from for days. And CNN saying our bombs didn't work. And Iran's still this close to a nuke? Because they heard it from an anonymous leaker at the Pentagon? It's funny how CNN had all these great sources all of a sudden, but for 4 years, not a single source leaked that Biden was falling asleep in his soup. Even Biden's national security guys say mission accomplished.
This is about the best place we can be. I give extremely high marks to this national security team and President Trump for managing this crisis.
Trump on Air Force One, feeling pretty good. At one point, he's scolding Netanyahu, and then he's telling Putin, you're next.
As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you. And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia. It's a shame.
Basking in the glow of a bold bombing campaign and a ceasefire, Trump arrived in the Netherlands to great news. Our NATO allies are finally paying their fair share.
For decades, the United States sought to get Europe to truly step up. Now, European allies and Canada will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So let me salute President Trump's long-standing leadership in calling for NATO to increase defense spending. Mr. President, dear Donald, that is thanks to you pushing us.
Whether it's real bombs or F-bombs, we're seeing results. Our allies are listening to us, and our enemies are scared of us. The president's heading into July 4th weekend with political clout, peace, a hot stock market, and low energy prices. As Buck Sexton said last night, the trend is our friend.
President Trump means what he says. Just listen to his words. He's not that hard to figure out. You can call it the Trump doctrine if you want, but it is simply a fact. And despite all the smears from the state-run legacy media mob, Trump has always called for global peace. Sometimes that means you got to get tough with both your enemies and your friends. Take a look earlier today.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
All right, after a tenuous start, the ceasefire is now back on track. Keep in mind, this is a ceasefire less than 1 week after President Trump obliterated Iran's nuclear program with a massive strike. Take a look at your screen. The strike was a tremendous success thanks to several bunker buster bombs that penetrated a mountain and exploded deep underground. Fordo, their nuclear plant, really no longer exists. We'll get the full assessment in days ahead. Now, there will be a lot of hard work ahead in terms of achieving a lasting peace. That will include checks and balances and measures in place to prevent Iran from ever rebuilding anything nuclear. This should also include Iran's recognition of Israel and, of course, anywhere, any place, anytime inspections, and that would be American inspections. And, of course, a full accounting of all enriched uranium that the Iranians may have moved. That has got to be a part of it as well. My message to Iran, tried to warn you before Donald Trump dropped those bunker busters. If you think you will be clever and you think you'll be able to use your proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels or others to attack Israel, then that war will be back on immediately, and Donald Trump will not come to the rescue and stop Israel this time. He knows that they are acting on orders from you, the Iranian leadership. Well, whoever's left. From this point forward, Iran's radical leaders, they are committing suicide any and every time they dare attack Israel, either directly or indirectly through their proxies. But what President Trump has been able to accomplish in the last week is incredible. It is historic. So many presidents talked about it. None of them ever did it. Now, of course, it is driving the Democrats and the media mob predictably absolutely crazy. Instead of congratulations, we are seeing condemnation from the left. Insanely, some are even accusing Donald Trump of committing any illegal act. And even today, 79 Democrats in Congress voted to impeach the president for daring to breach the 1973 War Powers Act, which, as Greg Jarrett points out, quote, it is a notification requirement, and he did notify the leadership on the Democratic side and Republican side in Congress, not a prohibition on the president's right to exert military action. And the president did, in fact, notify those people in Congress he needed to notify. Just to be clear, as Greg Jarrett points out, under Article 2 of the Constitution, the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and that empowers him to direct military operations to deter foreign threats to our national security, without conferring with Jasmine Crockett. Now, this has been well established over the course of our republic. No president has ever abided by the War Powers Act, ever. And the act itself even allows presidents a 60-day window to strike at any enemy if they deem necessary. On top of that, after 9/11, Congress specifically authorized additional powers for a president, granting explicit power to target nations linked to terrorism. That would be Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror. But if Democrats actually disagree with these facts, where then was the outrage when Joe Biden bombed Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, or when Barack Obama ordered strikes against Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Pakistan? Obama even ordered a drone strike against a U.S. citizen in Yemen, and yet Democrats then didn't care a whit. In fact, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, Lyndon B. Johnson all ordered strikes without congressional approval. There's your Hannity history lesson. But Democrats, why let facts get in the way of a great smear campaign against President Trump? They live, eat, breathe, sleep hating Trump. If the dog bites, the bee stings, you're feeling sad, blame Trump. If Trump cures cancer, blame him for that, too. They don't like Donald Trump. They don't like that he has emerged as the real, one true leader of the free world. Other presidents only made proclamations about Iran and their nuclear program. Donald Trump brought them to their knees. Other presidents politely encouraged NATO members to, take their defense seriously, pay their fair share. Donald Trump got them to start paying their fair share as of today. Other presidents looked the other way while Europe was piping in oil and gas at lower rates from Russia, funding Putin's war machine, while Donald Trump was calling them out for doing that very thing and then wanting money for defense. And now, by the way, at the NATO meeting that's going on in the Netherlands, Europe's leaders have finally come to the realization that President Trump has been right the entire time about every major issue facing the world. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.